I'm Anna Marie Cox, and don't you find my pain fascinating?
Well, I do. Hi, I'm Daniel Dresner, and today's podcast is brought to you by the letter C. If you want to occupy another planet, use the letter C to mark out your turf.
Dan, I don't think it was a C. I think some of them were C's, but it was more like just crop circles. Still,
I guess it's like, yes, like, but you see my point. Yeah.
There are, okay, we're going to be talking about No One Will Save You and get to that in a second.
Yes, but
preview, I liked it, but there are certain logical incongruities to it. There are some
which we will tackle.
There are some things about it that make me go, like including if you're telekinetic and you can change things, like why would you leave crop circles? Like, couldn't you not leave crop circles?
There is a lot of questions to ask about the aliens
right,
in this
but
movie,
that's not.
Anna, but we should
not
right, but not right now.
You might be wondering what podcast you're listening to, that this would be an issue.
Yes,
this is Space the Nation.
This is the Daily. Sorry.
This is the Daily. Dan?
Hi.
Aliens?
Thank you, Michael.
Okay. I don't listen to the Daily that much, in part because if I did, I would just speed it up. I'd put it on like 2 times.
Yeah.
Then I could actually listen to it. All right. This is Space the Nation, where we look at science fiction through the lens of
the offense-defense balance
and ethical hegemony. Today, we'll be talking about No One Will Save You, which is on Hulu. In the next few weeks, we'll be talking about The Shining, which I am super, super excited about. This is going to be...
To be clear, we are talking about the Stephen King novel, not any of the film adaptations.
I think that we may do the Kubrick movie at some point. Though I would nominate that we do the Kubrick movie at some point because...
Sure.
It's great. And then we're going to do a Schlock or Awe episode, first one we've done in a while, about 1996. David, is that David Toohey?
Yeah, David Toohey. Exactly. I was kind of shocked to realize this, but David Toohey's 1996 film, The Arrival, starring, I believe, Charlie Sheen.
Oh, yeah.
Charlie Sheen in full goatee mode.
Yes. Pre-mental break. But
yes.
Post goatee.
But probably post a lot of drugs, I'm betting. But
we'll see. Like, it'll be interesting to do a deep read of that movie. See if there's something we can't see in his performance that would tell us about what was to happen. Not too far future. Dan, what else do people know? Come on, let's just chop.
If you have not yet subscribed to this podcast, please do so. Although we've actually received a recent influx of subscribers. We are getting Dan. Because we're a big time podcast now, because we have ads if you don't subscribe.
Yeah.
But for those of you who don't like the ads, please do subscribe. All you have to do is go to our Patreon page at patreon.com/spacethenation. As little as $3 a month, I think, $5 a month. It's a great way to support the show. Costs you nothing. You get to avoid the ads if you're a patron. You get to early access to our podcast. You get access to our monthly AUAs. You also get access to our Discord, which is a wonderful community of folks, very bright, lively, have their own opinions, really just a nice place for civil exchange.
Yeah.
And that is an increasingly rare place in today's America.
Yeah, too bad you don't stop by more often, Dan. But, we always appreciate it when you do come by, especially when we explicitly ask you, Dan, could you help us talk about this thing in the news? Because we need your guidance because you're an expert. And
wow, Anna. Yes, because there is nothing I want to do more than break away from a weekend with my daughter to talk to folks about how they should talk about the Middle East. That is definitely a fun thing that I want to do.
There is a kind of cultural expert version of would you take a look at this mole, Doc?
Yes. Oh, yes. Yep. No, I wrote about this, that particularly post 2016. Before 2016, I would tell people I was a political scientist. Really, at a cocktail party, they'd walk away. After that, it was the equivalent of, will you look at this mole? It was it was utterly, it's utterly
okay.
True.
Although I will say on the Discord, we actually are paying you a little bit. So
that is fair.
Not quite look at this mole. It's, I'll give you $3 to look at this mole.
Well, that just sounds creepy, Anna. It makes it sound like I have a mole fetish.
That sounds like a kink. It's true.
Yes.
All right, we mentioned this. We now have ads, which you know if you are not a patron already because you've heard a couple. And what people may not know is we couldn't do that until we reached a certain number of downloads. So it is, in fact, a mark of our success that we have ads now. That was your plan all along, Dan, wasn't it?
Alien chittering.
All right, I think we've explained how you can avoid ads and pay us directly, which is to go to the Patreon.
Yes.
As little as $3 a month. You can go up higher. There are some people that actually pay us quite a bit more, which, you know what?
And we're very grateful.
I am grateful, and I am glad that capitalism has worked for them.
Yes.
Dan, why are we talking about No One Will Save You?
Well, it's October, Anna. This definitely qualifies as a spooky sci-fi movie. And, speaking of our patrons, the patrons on the Discord seemed into it, so it seemed worth watching.
I feel moral obligation to support films that are under 3 hours long.
This is a tight 90-minute film, Anna. Yeah. I gotta say, it's gonna sound like a minimal thing saying it's a good 90-minute film, but those are increasingly rare. I want to see more good 90-minute films.
Yes, there's bad movies of all kinds of lengths. There are just fewer movies that are under 3 hours in general. And then so fewer still just by kind of, law of averages, fewer bell curves and whatever. I think I put all that the right way. So fewer still movies that are good.
Use the right words.
And under 90 minutes or under 3 hours. Next question, Dan, will this podcast ruin it for people? If they listen to this podcast first, will they then not enjoy the movie as much?
I'm going to say yes, with a slight proviso, because we've had slight differences in terms of our interpretations of watching this film. Anna, I believe it would be safe to say you were not surprised by a whole ton.
I kind of want to show you my notes. Because at every point there's I wonder if this is going to happen next. Oh, yep, that happened next. Okay. So,
and it might be that I don't watch as many horror films as you do.
I am genre savvy.
It's not that I was surprised per se by anything, but it's that there were a few moments where it's oh, okay. Also, just generally, it's a 90-minute film. You're going to feel better having watched the film. It's entertaining.
It's good. 90 minutes.
It's good.
Go ahead. We'll wait.
I'm sorry. I just like that again. It's a great tagline. It's good. It's 90 minutes. You should, it's good.
All right.
All right. But more importantly, let us get to the story behind the story. Anna, I think the primary sort of unique thing about No One Will Save You is that there is almost no dialogue in this film. There's, I believe, literally one sentence of dialogue. And my understanding is that this was not necessarily the original intent of writer-director Brian Duffield. Is that true?
Well, it didn't start out as a challenge to himself, not using the letter E or something.
Right, I guess, yes.
I think it developed out of, in a cool way, it developed out of the necessities of the story he wanted to tell, which is about a woman who lives by herself who's alienated from her community. And then I think once you kind of go down that road, you're oh, okay, we can do this. We can also make this a gimmick. But I think one of the reasons it works as not a gimmick, actually, one of the reasons it works, period, is that I think if you hadn't told me before I watched it, this is an entirely silent movie, I don't know if it's the first thing I would have noticed about it.
Yeah, also, I'm going to stress this.
But it's not entirely silent, number one.
It's not entirely a silent movie, not just the one line of dialogue, but it's not, it obviously will get compared to things like The Artist or what have you, and we'll talk about this a little bit later. It's not a silent film. So, the sound effects are important, is the way I would.
And she has utterances.
Yes, which I thought was good.
So Brian Duffield, some of his background, his first writing credit is for Quarantine, which some people like. I have not seen it, but it's zombies, right?
That is a scary film. Yeah, okay. It's I haven't seen all of it, but I've seen enough of it to know that is a scary goddamn film.
Then he has some sort of horror comedies, The Babysitter and The Babysitter Killer Queen, Love and Monsters, which people like, one I haven't seen. And then Dan, he wrote Cocaine Bear.
He did Cocaine Bear? Oh my God, I didn't know this. Yeah. Oh, I know, Anna. You and I split on Cocaine Bear.
Not on bears. We split on cocaine and Cocaine Bears. Yes, I'm
fair enough.
I am pro bear. I'm anti-cocaine for myself, but I'm also anti-cocaine for bears. I'm anti-drugging animals against their will.
Totally fine. I am pro CGI bears getting like really
watching
like,
animals drugged
cocaine.
against their will. I know, Dan. Yeah. I know.
I said CGI bears. Come on.
Watching CGI bears get drugged against their will. Sure. That whatever gets you off, Dan. Whatever.
Oh, Anna, we are not going to the place where we debate whether fictional characters have agency compared to their authors.
Oh, I'm just saying you enjoy watching it. That's not a...
I do. I'm not. You are trying to cocaine bear shame me, and I will not have this. Okay, Anna?
Your kink is looking at moles and watching animals get high.
Yes! Finally, thank God I can say it out loud. I've been keeping that buried for quite some time.
Melanoma bear really is going to like put you over the moon.
No, I just want to look at someone's mole while there's a cocaine bear close by, Anna. Jeez. Don't make it weird or anything.
All right. So this movie was well blurbed, not just being under 90 minutes. Guillermo del Toro loved it. It is fun. Last word, all caps. It's smart and with a great moment staged in a classic solid way. Avoids the pitfalls and maximizes the resources. Stephen King also liked it. I will say, what?
I'm sorry. With the Guillermo del Toro thing, I thought you were going to say, avoids the pitfalls of fish fucking? That would be good.
He avoided the pitfalls of fish fucking. He
I suppose he did.
He did.
Sure.
Stephen King also liked it. I will say, I like Obama or O-Bummer as our new category that we're doing, which we're inaugurating very soon. Actually.
Yes. We're going to be doing Sea of Tranquility, I believe. Yeah. Yes.
Another podcast could do Stephen King, like King or Popper or something. Like,
ooh, that's a good one.
Because
you have a Stephen King podcast. I mean,
I do.
You could propose,
but I don't want to propose this because it would take a lot of time. Which is all the stuff that he recommends. A lot of it, which is like not great. You know?
Yeah, I've never forgiven him for his New York Times book review of Hannibal.
Yeah, so this is what I will say about him. I think as a person, this is one of the reasons why he's appealing, and I think as an author as well, he's an incredibly generous person.
That is correct, yes.
And I think he is easily excited. Yep. Like, he really loves horror, and he's just willing to kind of like go with a lot, which is, I would like to have that value in a friend. I would value that in a friend. I would not take their movie recommendations very seriously.
Fair enough.
Right. Okay. So I think I want to read a few quotes from Duffield here on the ending, which I guess will not totally give away. It's one of the oddest happy endings ever. I think we can say that.
Yeah. Yep. That's a safe statement.
And his quote on it is, "She finally gets something she didn't think she would ever deserve. I like the idea that this kid who has gone through so much has a happy ending, as strange as it may be. I love horror movies that have a real slap in your face ending, but I liked Bryn too much to slap her in the face." And then, Dan, we don't officially have a new category of Ticket to Cancelvania, like, but I wanted to drop this in because it's really interesting.
Do tell.
So the way that he got to this plot was because he's fascinated by juvenile crimes. Like people who commit crimes as a young person prior to being fully, have full
being
control.
Tried as an adult. Yeah.
Being tried as an adult or having like full control of their emotions. Like,
sure.
So he was fascinated by the Slender Man murders. There's a really good documentary about that case, by the way. I can't remember the name of it, but it can't be too many documentaries that have the word Slender Man in them. So look it up. And then also Heavenly Creatures, which is based on a true story about two young women who kill one of their mothers in New Zealand. And he says, I had done a deep dive on that movie, and I found out that one of the girls changed her name and became a fairly successful author. Dan, have you ever heard of Anne Perry?
I'm sorry, Anna, I haven't actually.
People may have heard of her because she's the author of the Monk series.
Monk
adapted
as in the TV show?
The TV show.
The one with Tony Schill? Really?
Yep.
Oh my God, I did not know that.
She wrote the books that's based on. She also has another series. She's written like 50 novels. She fucking killed somebody. Sorry, like it's amazing.
Wow.
Like that this turned out. I mean, I've read her books, and of course, most of us have heard of the Tony Shalhoub movie or TV series, right?
TV series. Yes.
She's written like 50 books. A bunch of them are bestsellers.
Wow.
But her real name is Juliette Hulme. And she was tried as a child for the murder of, I believe it was her friend. Yes, it was her friend's mother.
Oh, she was the friend. Okay.
She was the friend. That happened. She was uncovered in 1994. And it's funny, Duffield says, became a fairly successful author. And I wouldn't say fairly successful, by the way. She's enormously successful.
She's very successful. Yeah.
Very successful author. And until that was uncovered about her, she actually continued to be a best-selling author. You know,
and by the way, did that mean that afterwards she ceased to be a best-selling author?
No, I'm saying no. She continued to be a best-selling author.
Okay.
Yeah, no. She moved to Hollywood.
I'm weirdly gratified to know that. Okay.
Yeah, I am too. She moved to Hollywood in 2017, I think, because of the Monk stuff, or maybe other stuff was being developed.
I believe there's actually a Monk movie coming out at this point.
And she also has written, the way that I know her best is she's written a series of Christmas murder mysteries that I read. I have a little personal tradition of reading every Christmas.
Okay.
And
have these been turned into movies on Hallmark yet, or no?
No, they would be very different. Although they're set in like the 19th century. They're cozies.
Oh, okay, I see. Okay,
there's sleigh rides and cocoa, but they're good. They're not like cozies. They're more like Sherlock Holmes tone.
Got it.
I would say. And she died just this year at 83.
Oh. Wow.
So I like that story. I like that this person had a life that she wasn't held back by something that she was not responsible for. So I shouldn't have said she killed a motherfucker, but like that was in jest. Dan, moving on.
Yes.
So she wasn't canceled. Actually, no trip to Pennsylvania for her.
Nope. Didn't even apparently make the outskirts of it.
Yep.
Let's get to Chekhov's What's It. This is the thing that often appears in the first act of a film that winds up being somewhat relevant later on. Anna, what do you have?
Dan, you go first because yours is lame.
Oh, man! Jeez! Wow! Okay. Good Lord. Oh, I'm sorry. I had Chekhov's boiling water. I apologize for the lameness of that.
But it's the reason it's lame is because it's very much telegraphed it's going to be a weapon.
Well, yeah, that's the whole point of the Chekhov thing.
No, the gun on the mantle, we don't know if it's going to be shot or not. Okay. I have something that's just a metaphor, so it might be kind of lame, which is man's inhumanity to man.
Also fair.
That is introduced in the first act and then does come around.
Yep. Oh, definitely comes around in the ending.
Absolutely. All right.
Okay.
Enough of that.
Yes.
Let's just talk about the actual movie.
All right, let's get to the plot. Act 1, let's meet our final girl. Anna, our only contestant for Final Girl is Bryn Adams, a 20-something seamstress who lives in a small town named Mill River.
Dan, I want to actually give her... She's not a seamstress. She sells dresses on Etsy, clearly.
Doesn't that make her a seamstress?
I guess. I would say dressmaker. I want to offer her a little more
Okay. I'm sorry, Anna. Our only contestant for Final Girl is Bryn Adams, a 20-something dressmaker who lives in a small town named Mill River. Bryn has some backstory, Anna. Her mother passed away recently, leaving her alone in the house that she grew up in. More disturbingly, the local town folk don't seem to be terribly crazy about her. She is the object of uncomfortable stares and profane phone calls. This might have something to do with what happened a decade ago when her best friend died under mysterious circumstances.
Mysterious to us.
Yes, mysterious to us, exactly. So, Bryn goes to sleep one night and wakes up to the sounds of a home invasion. And sure enough, there is an intruder, but not one from this planet. It is a humanoid alien, a gray in the alien vernacular, that seems to be able to control electricity and also has additional telekinetic powers. The alien tries to subdue Bryn, but she kills it with a broken fragment of a model bell tower. Anna, let's talk about the aliens. There were a few different types of creatures, but most of them in some ways were sort of standard UFO aliens is the way I would put it. But I was surprised at how creeped out I was by them, even though a lot of them seem like they're garden variety of aliens. In particular, the first intruder, when you see the hands go over the fridge door, that was very effective, I thought. But also, the prehensile feet freaked me out.
Yeah, so on the feet tip,
Yes.
my theory, one of the reasons why they're so creepy is actually they have partially taken human form. Like, I don't know if you noticed, but they have very human heels, and those they're literally prehensile. Like, they look like fingers.
Yeah, they do.
So I think that may or may not be intentional, but I think that, it's an uncanny valley kind of thing. The fact that they have
that's probably it, yes.
Recognizably human characteristics and yet are so alien. Okay. So Dan, I sent you a very cute picture while I was watching this movie, which is that my cat Bram, who's a black cat, named after Bram Stoker. It's during one of the invasion scenes, I looked over and he was attentively staring at the screen.
If Bram could have been taking notes, he was taking notes. Like, that's the way I would put it.
Right. So my theory, so at first I thought, oh no, he's taking notes. He's like figuring out how to do this right. But then I realized maybe he's actually mocking them. He's like amused. You idiots, you should take the form of pets. Because that's what we did. We run the world now. Like, if you just take over as cats, like, the humans will enslave themselves. Like, you don't need to do anything. No violence is necessary.
If the dogs rise up after we release this podcast, we will know that you're on point here.
Okay, so, and then I know we're going to have to wait for the IR section, Dan.
Yeah.
But as long as we're talking about the aliens.
Yep.
It was pretty much during the beginning that I was like, wait a minute, what's the game here? I imagine this is a problem in most alien invasion movies.
So let me put it this way. I have a problem with this later in the film.
Okay.
At least in this first act. Partly it's because I think this was intentional, it's not just that the alien itself, like, evokes prior aliens. The idea of an alien going into the house and, like, sort of investigating what's going on, that's also sort of a standard trope. Yeah. So in some ways, I assume this was later
where what is their game plan? Like, what's the strategy here? That starts to be an issue.
And that's entirely fair. But, like, up until then, like, I was like, okay, yeah, like, I've seen this. Like, this is the part where it's like, yeah, I've totally seen this before.
Okay, all right. Well, I'd like to talk more about what their strategy is.
Yeah,
we have a whole section for that. Yes. And then, Dan, I just thought I'd point out that I took a long time to watch this because...
Did the header in my email that I sent the script to you for bother you? I'm so sorry, Anna. I'm so sorry. Listeners, I believe I sent, I do a draft of the script. I send it to Anna. It's usually just the title of the movie to let her know what it is. In this case, I said, I believe no one will save the ginger girl living alone. Was that correct?
That is what you said.
Sorry about that.
Movie hit a little close to home.
Yep.
I live alone. I have very mild social anxiety disorder and OCD. And I also drive a Subaru, which I didn't know that she would. But, like, I was, like, counting, like, okay, I prepare meals and, like, have, like, my little dinners to myself. I don't dance by myself.
You definitely don't dress like Bryn. Let's be very clear about that. I don't dress like her.
But there was, like, layers of, like, I don't like this.
I was going to mention this in the refill, but I think an important distinction here, you have pets. She does not.
Oh, God.
She is in such need of a pet.
She really needs a dog.
I have never met a character who needs a dog more.
Yeah,
like, this is definitely a dog. But, like Bryn needs a golden retriever more than any other character I might have seen on screen.
God. Yes, totally. Just a big, shaggy, dumb blonde.
Yeah,
golden retriever. The thing about it hitting close to home, though, is I did more than usual actually take some notes about what I would have done in the situation.
Oh, good.
And also, I took notes on something I really don't use this much, which is I made a list of, like, what I would do if that happened to me is I would be keeping a list of what do I know about these aliens.
Yes.
Yes,
that's
and I do think she kind of anyway, but it would be depressing at some point. Because
the thing I will give her credit for is actually what's about to come up, which is she does try to actually get out of there. So let's go to Act 2.
Sure.
Let's just cross off those escape options. So the next morning, Bryn finds
she does do this. She does do the thing that we yell at the screen. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Which I actually found gratifying in the sense of, okay, good to know. So the next morning, Bryn finds nothing electrical working. Grabbing her bike, she checks out her neighborhood And it sure seems like those aliens were awful busy wreaking havoc with folks like the local douchebag mailman. The town, on the other hand, seems weirdly unaffected. Bryn decides to go to the police, but runs right into the police chief and his wife, who are the parents of Maud, Bryn's dead best friend. Awkward! They have not done the work in therapy, and so spit on Bryn instead. Frustrated, she opts to flee the region by bus. And that plan would have worked, too, if it wasn't for those meddling pod people, Anna. Several passengers, including that darn mailman, seem to be controlled by alien parasites and attempt to restrain her. The bus driver stops the bus and Bryn is able to flee. She runs to the local church, but the doors are locked and there is no salvation for her there in what might have been the most obvious piece of symbolism in the entire film.
Yeah.
The skies start to darken and she runs home. As she heads back to the house, she sees many of her neighbors staring up at the darkening sky in a trance-like state as the alien parasites in their body are apparently gestating. Anna, there are a few contextual clues that this film is clearly set in the present day. You see a tombstone for Bryn's mom indicating that she died in 2019. And I was actually a little disappointed that they did that because while I was watching the film, I was kind of convinced that it was set in the early 90s. You know, we don't see a cell phone anywhere in this film. And I don't mean to sound cruel here, but Bryn's fashion sense runs towards Laura Ashley in the late 80s. Am I nuts to think that this was?
Yeah, I would say Laura
set in
Ashley
the
is
early
definitely
90s?
like a late 80s thing.
Right, but she's, this is a small town. That
Yeah.
makes it the early 90s, see what I mean? Yeah.
I thought about that too, especially because I wondered how quarantine would figure into if it happened if her mom died in 2019 and so it's after that. You thought I meant Quarantine the movie.
No. You mean quarantine like the pandemic. But I'm not sure
I wondered it would be it would sort of be a little interesting to kind of like put that as part of the mix. Yeah, right? Yeah. Like another reason why she is the way she is. That's one of the reasons why I am the way I am, Dan. Well, no, that's probably a long story there, but I do think it would
Welcome to the 4-hour podcast of Inside Anna.
Oh, that Dan, no.
I'm sorry.
No.
Oh, God. I apologize.
Stop. Okay.
Yeah.
I want to say here, I don't understand the alien life cycle. I don't understand the alien. This is where it starts to get like, wait, are they pod people? Or are they hijackers? Those are two things, two different things. Like the bug down the throat makes them seem like they're hijackers, which is to say like they hijack the human body, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
But then they also are pod people?
Well, then we see one of those little things that gets inserted become a doppelganger, which is very weird. So yeah, so, I don't have an answer to this question. The impression I got from that scene, there's definitely pod people as well. I don't think it's either or with these aliens, which is one of the sources of confusion, I think, in terms of figuring out what it is that they're doing.
This is not a complaint. It's just sort of a thing that I noticed also when I was taking notes on what do we know about these aliens. Because like if I was in their place, I'd be like trying to figure out what their weaknesses are, right?
Right.
They care about their bodies. Like they bring back the aliens dead. Like they don't leave a colleague behind,
Right.
Like it's sort of
which is actually, I don't think that's necessarily weird. I think that actually that's identifiable. Yes, exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Dan, do you ever think about what you would do in an alien invasion?
I mean, I think about what I do, but I also have the harder knowledge that whatever I think I would do when the shit actually hits the fan, I don't know if I would actually do is the problem.
Well, Dan, let's take a break and think about that, shall we?
Yes. We're going to pause for this moment for this paean to capitalism. We'll be back right after this.
All right, Dan, I hope you came up with some, not just things that you wanted to buy to fill the hole in your soul, but also some things that you might do were there an alien invasion. They were practical. See, I think if you come up with practical things rather than like, no, I would fight. Like
right, yeah.
Like I did miss a little bit of this movie because I was looking up gun shooting classes.
I think for me it's how to pack the go bag. That's
because I own a gun actually, and my dad gave it to me. It's a rifle.
Whoa.
It's not like
okay. Oh, all right. Yeah.
Actually, okay. Won't get into the guns I own. I own 2 guns, but they're not. It's fine. It's Texas.
I'm sorry, Anna, I'm laughing because I'm waiting for this to go. Oh, wait, I have that third gun. I forgot about the third gun. Never mind. Nope. 3 guns, a couple hand grenades. No, but that's it. That's like, pretty mild by Texas standards.
He's an interesting person, and one of the ways he's interesting is he used to collect vintage rifles.
Fair enough.
With cool rifles before they got big and played stadiums. Like, so I have a couple of those. I did miss a little bit of the movie because I was like, maybe I should learn to shoot those just in case there's an alien invasion or any kind of invasion. All right, Dan. It is time for
Act 3, every alien stereotype all at once. Bryn returns home and fortifies her house against more aliens. She boils water and collects knives. Sure enough, a flying saucer arrives over Bryn's house and uses a tractor beam to collect the dead alien. 2 other aliens enter the house. Bryn fends one off with a broken mop handle. The larger, scarier-looking alien pursues Bryn, but she traps it in her Subaru and immolates it when its legs become entangled. Bryn runs back into her house, but then another alien restrains her with some kind of tractor beam, which raises the question of why the first 2 aliens were bothering with anything beyond the tractor beam, Anna, and inserts a parasite into her mouth. Smash cut to Bryn waking up from what seems like a really bad dream. Her life seems back to normal and Maud is still alive. Recognizing it as an illusion, however, she apologizes to Maud in her dream, it's the only sentence of dialogue in the film, and then pulls the parasite from her mouth, finding herself in an open field. A flying saucer arrives and transforms the parasite into a doppelganger of Bryn, who pursues the real Bryn into the woods. Okay, Anna, which sequence in this film scared you the most? Because I do think this film actually was appropriately scary. For me, I think, weirdly, it was the scene on the bus. There was something genuinely unsettling about the sort of hijacked people like crawling like insects on top of the seats. That really weirded me out. Also, that first alien one-on-one fight was also freaky for me.
I think the bus scene is pretty scary, in part because it's the psychological scare of, you thought you were safe, you're not safe.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And I think that's true in the first night when she's alone as well. There's a couple of like, they're gone, or this is over, and then it's not over. I want to talk about the alien life cycle some more.
Okay, this is clearly bothering you. Keep going.
And here, it's sort of life cycle, which is there an emotional component to the hijacking? Which can they not fully hijack unless it's consensual? Because when she hijacks, when she gets hijacked, what happens is she realizes it's not a dream.
It's not real. Yeah.
And she rejects it. So a part of me is like, I wonder if that's the key. Like the alien only can take over your body if the human is like, yes, I will live in this dream state, Maybe
it is like a Matrix style ending. I mean, or a Matrix style thing where like on some level, you have to accept the alien in order to persist. Although I don't know, the other simple fact about this is that I suspect, in contrast to most of the alien hijackings, Bryn has been around for 48 hours when they actually try to do this. So Bryn is very, very knowledgeable about what is actually going on in a way that maybe the other humans were not.
So when I was taking my notes about, so what do we know about these aliens? There was a part of me that wondered, and maybe we'll talk more about this later, if there's a reason why Bryn was not, more immediately taken up. Because there is that's a logical flaw too, right? Is that there's a whole period where she's unconscious, that if they really wanted to get her, they could get her. And part of me was like, I wonder if it's in this particular case, somehow it's her lack of social connections that are protecting her.
Right. Do they read the fact that she's a socially isolated person and therefore, in other words, really, are the aliens just social scientists? Yeah. Well, no, I was thinking, are they social scientists? Are they like observing what's going on? Who knows? I'm kind of curious. Yeah.
Or they need people with social ties in order to fully integrate into society, when she's a low priority or she's not useful at all because she doesn't have social ties. And what are they going to do? Like hijack her like Etsy store?
I guess the problem with this, though, is why do they attack like her rural area and not the town first? That's the problem with that logic.
Well, okay. I still like the idea that there's something about social connections that if she becomes less appealing to them, because
that I agree with. I'm just saying that like that it also raises.
Well, you always start in the small towns, like we learned from Faculty. Like we always start. We. Oh, sorry.
Right.
Did I say we always start in the small towns?
Aha! Aha! I knew it.
I wanted to say that I thought the body horror was. You and I both are not fans of body horror. It was perfect in terms of like creeped me out without making me feel like you're doing this just to creep me out.
Right. No, this film is in no way what I would say is sadistic.
Yeah.
It in that sense made it enjoyable for me. I was not the hugest fan of horror, but like this was an extremely well done. All right, let's close with Act 4. That's quite the bizarre happy ending you got there. The doppelganger catches up to Bryn and stabs her multiple times. But just when you think our final girl is out, she slashes her doppelganger with a box cutter and kills her. Bryn makes it to a country road where she is then sucked into a flying saucer and psychically probed by a group of aliens within the craft. We then learn exactly what turned the town against her. She and Maud had an argument as kids. Maud pushed Bryn to the ground, and Bryn responded by hitting Maud with a rock, accidentally killing her. The aliens chitter with each other and seem to arrive at a consensus to send Bryn back to Earth unharmed and seemingly free of their influence. It's happily ever after for our final girl, Bryn. Her home is repaired, she seems happy and upbeat, she's wearing makeup, and why shouldn't she, Anna? She's being treated warmly by the other townfolk who are now clearly all pod people. There's dancing and everything, so I guess it all works out. Anna, let's talk about that ending. I have to admit, there was a small part of me that thought of the at least the movie version of Cell, which is a not great Stephen King adaptation with John Cusack.
Which I did a 3-hour discussion of on the Stephen King podcast that I'm on, which is called The Losers Club. You can look it up.
But that I will say, the ending I thought was like a little more powerful than it had any right to be.
Yeah.
Because, you see the John Cusack character, sort of resolving stuff, and you realize, oh, that's just in his head. That's, So there was a small part of me that kept wondering if Bryn was imagining everything going on in her head.
The ending of The Faculty, too, Dan. In my opinion, I have my read of The Faculty ending, spoiler alert, is that it's actually aliens are winning. Okay, so my first theory upon seeing her released unharmed, laughing, my first theory was, okay, what's happened here is that seeing her experience has made the aliens realize the complexity of the human, psyche and the richness of our emotional lives and the entire spectrum of things that we feel. So they're just going to leave us alone. They're just going to withdraw. They're going to withdraw not from Bryn, but from everybody. They're just like, all right, you guys, you are not the insects we thought you were. Right?
I'm just gonna add here, there is an alternative interpretation you could have gone with,
Dan.
Anna just chittered at me. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry. Go ahead.
And then I saw that she was among pod people, right? So this is just when she fell to the ground and was clearly unharmed. That's when I thought, all right, the aliens have decided we're worth saving. So then when she goes into town and it's clear like all these people that are warmly greeting her are pod people, my read is, okay, what happened here is the aliens saw how terribly the townspeople treated Bryn and thought, all right, better waste them. And then they adopt Bryn as a pet. Now, another reading would be it's all a dream or something, or she's been pod personed. And this is like I don't think that's true. In part because if it was all a dream and she was in that space of everything being cool, like she had been in that version earlier, the other townspeople wouldn't be pod people. They'd be like regular townspeople.
That is a certain plausibility to it. I agree with you in that I don't think in the end it is a dream. The only thing I was going to say was the alternative interpretation from your first one could have been that the aliens probe her mind and they decided, oh my God, human beings are royally fucked up. Let's get out of here. We don't want to do anything.
Okay, yeah, sure.
Any of this.
Yes.
That's all I was going to say.
Right. They're either empathetic or horrified, but they decide to leave us alone. I do think the second thing is what happens. That is, if I think that they decide that, wow, they're bitches, man. Like humanity is terrible. Like you don't want to have these things scurrying around.
No, we apparently want to have the aliens scurrying around.
This raises a question though, Dan. This raises a good question, however.
Oh, okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
The point of all this, which is what made me think, as I sometimes do, note in my notes as I'm watching something, is there IR in this movie? And I can't wait for Dan to tell me what it is.
Anna, the IR in this film is so quiet. There's almost no audible dialogue about it. But it is definitely there. And I'd argue that in a weird way, it's the anti-Independence Day of alien invasion films. So the common trope in alien invasion films is that the aliens are an evil monolith, and then humanity, in response to the alien threat, unites and fights back. It's classic balancing behavior. We saw it with Independence Day. We've seen it with other films in this sort of genre. This film complicates that narrative in a number of ways. All right. The first is that Bryn is clearly hated by most of the other humans that we see. In some ways, far more unsettling, I think, than the sheriff's wife spitting on her was the shot just before that, where you see Bryn walking to the sheriff's door, where like everyone is looking at her. And by the way, I like the way that worked, because I kind of thought that was the first moment where I wondered, oh, I wonder if there are pod people now, because, there's different reasons why they might be staring at her.
Yeah, you could argue they were pod people before then. The
pod people was in us all along. It's true.
Yeah.
So
the real pod people were the friends we made along the way.
Along the way, yes. So, and we'll be back with the daily right after. No, I'm sorry. Okay, sorry. Don't kill that last part.
No.
Oh.
Okay. You can leave the real pod people were the friends we made.
Oh, that's fine. It was when I cut
joke.
to the daily. Yeah, no, that's a good joke. I agree.
I think the daily stuff's funny too. But anyway,
okay. So the point is that the humans in this alien invasion film are hardly a monolith, or if they are, they're a monolith against Bryn. What I'm beginning to wonder watching this film, what I started thinking as I was watching it, is I'm not entirely sure all the aliens are on the same page. In no small part because if they are, none of this makes any sense. Because if you think about it, the way the alien, if you think about it for just a second, these aliens have lousy tactics and horrible strategy.
Yes.
Okay? Their tactics are, let's creep around and not do anything. When, again, they have telekinetic powers. They have, the power to control over electricity. And by the way, their ships apparently have tractor beams that can freeze people. Seems really stupid to send aliens inside the houses when you could just have the alien ship hover, immobilize them, put that thing in their mouths, and then just go about your business. Okay? And, I think it's fair to wonder whether, in fact, the aliens are entirely, working harmoniously, because in no small part, we see so many different kinds of aliens. There are the pod people. There are the sort of parasites. There's the giant aliens. There's the tiny aliens. Then when we get to the ship, we clearly see the aliens talking to each other and talking to what seems to be a more powerful figure. So I don't know what, I think the fundamental thing that I did find frustrating was I was not entirely sure what the goal of the aliens was.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So that was when I was first I can't wait to talk to Dan, because I'm do they want to take over?
It seems like they do, but
is the Earth a resource rich place that they need? Is it strategically located? Sometimes I think there should be more alien invasion movies about how we're just strategically located,
right? Which would be fine.
That would be,
it's like the Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Actually,
yeah.
Have to do it sometime.
Although that would be not strategically located, the opposite of strategically located.
Hey, there's an important intergalactic bypass that goes through Earth. Okay, let's not get to that. Yeah. But I will say this: I think one of the strengths of this film, and one of the is also one of its weaknesses, which is the strength is that it's telling a story about an alien invasion from the sort of plebeian point of view, for lack of a better way of putting it. It's like War of the Worlds in that way, and that you only see one person's perspective. So as you point out, you get a little information, but you don't get a lot. You have no idea why the aliens are doing it. But that's also the weakness, which is based on all the information we see, the alien strategy and the alien tactics the alien strategy is indecipherable. I have no idea what the aliens want. The alien tactics are just insane. Again, I do not understand why you bother sending people into houses. They have an awful lot of powerful tech. They don't seem terribly thrilled about using it. The part that I think captured this was there's this one scene where I think there's an alien in Bryn's old room sort of looking at the pictures of Bryn and Maud. And it's the one time Bryn really seems to get legitimately angry, and she's like running towards the alien and is clearly going to attack it. And you just see the alien flick its wrist, and Bryn goes through the wall, because of the telekinetic. And like, that is a sort of thing where it's like, this is like Superman versus Batman, except Superman would kill Batman.
So I was, going through my, like, what would I do?
Yeah.
And also, what are the aliens' weaknesses? How would I take advantage of the aliens' weaknesses? And I did realize one of the reasons I stopped looking up gun lessons is if they have telekinesis, well then it's fucking pointless. Like,
game over, man!
Game over, man!
Game over, man! Yeah. I don't know if you've been paying attention to current events, but we just got our asses kicked, man!
And but then that also, I think, gives some credence to the idea that there's an emotional component to what they're doing. Like, that in some way they need something that they cannot simply wrest from us, through brute force. Like,
that is possible. And I think there's no other way to
we are
interpret
doing
the ending.
So much work, by the way. We just put on the table. This is a good movie. It obviously promotes, or it gives you a lot to chew on. Mm-hmm. We have thought a lot more about this than the screenwriter has.
I do just want to close by saying the ending also justifies the idea that this is not an Independence Day film. As you point out, however you want to interpret the ending, it is clear that Bryn is happier living among the aliens than she ever was living with the humans. Yeah. And so, it's an ending in which, no, it's not humans versus aliens. It's which humans decide they're going to bandwagon with the aliens.
But and then you get to the, like, so why are they there? Like,
yeah. And again, the problem is here, the film provides no information and it's unsatisfying. Yeah. That's the way I would put it. I mean, and there are justifiable reasons for doing it, but I kind of wish a better film would have offered at least just like a couple seconds to hint at why that was.
Or earlier. Yeah. Earlier. I wouldn't do it at the end, but I'd do it earlier.
No, but you could at some point. But you know what, Anna, all of this talking about what the aliens are doing, what they're thinking, I do have a question for you as well.
Well, Dan, what is it?
Is there a critique of capitalism in this film?
Dan, perhaps you've heard of a little theory called the alienation of labor.
Oh, damn! You went all Marxist on me!
I emphasize the alienation of labor, Dan.
Oh, God. Oh, all right.
This movie invites us to think about the alienation of labor in sort of literal terms. It's doing a playful sort of reinterpretation of what that means in late stage capitalism, in which we are so alienated from our labor. It takes aliens to reintegrate us.
Okay,
Dan, this is the story of a craftsman who has found value in the kind of hand-produced workmanship that modern capitalism has rendered obsolete. And how she then becomes a part of a post-capitalist, post-scarcity utopian community.
Yes, in which she is the only human being with a mass proletariat.
Well, what makes us human, Dan? This is important. What makes us human, right? So it's people probably close, unless they're really close readers of Marx and thought about this a lot. Marx was not against labor, like the act of doing stuff, right? Like he was opposed to the alienation and the commodification of labor, but he actually thought of creativity and production is what makes us human. Like, that we build our own environments. There's a part in one of his essays where he talks about how it's true that spiders spin and birds build nests, but it's humans that build our environments not just to use, but as decorative, creative expressions of what we are. Animals only create what they need. Quote, man produces even when he is free from physical need. And in fact, that's my ad though, in fact, only truly produces in freedom from need, Dan. So animals only create what they can use. Quote, man therefore forms objects in accordance with the laws of beauty. And Dan, what is Bryn's hobby?
She builds models, I think.
It's the creation of a community as art. She is literally
which she then weaponizes to kill the alien. I'm going to point that out.
That's when she doesn't know that they're there to help her.
Okay.
she literally is creating a community out of art. Or as Marx would say, it is in his work upon the objective world, therefore, that man really proves himself to be a species being. I had so much fun with this, Dan.
Oh, Anna, I am in awe of this one. The species being, oh god, it takes me back to being.
This is why I was a Mellon fellow.
Anna,
we talked about that. We ever talked about the fact that I was a Carnegie Mellon fellow.
I did not know you were a Carnegie Mellon fellow. All I know is that, like, just saying
this is the kind of shit that got me my fellowship.
All I'm saying is that I have got the images of the red Marx Engels reader in my head now. Yep.
So she is alienated from her community because she refuses to be alienated from her labor.
Okay.
This is true in the sense that she is a craftsman, but also in that she refuses to let go of what she has done as a piece of violence. She has incorporated that into her being. The townspeople would prefer that she give that up, right? And perhaps in a healthier situation, that would be good. But they're punishing her for not being alienated from herself. Who is the real community worth having? This movie posits that the alienation of labor is great. It's the humanization of labor that's alienating.
Anna, I'm not going to lie. This might be my favorite, like, critique of capitalism you've come up with. This is truly inspired.
It's true. The Alien versus Predator riff is better.
That was also good, but, like, this is like deep theory we're talking about here.
This is me actually using some of that graduate school.
This is you doing the work, Anna. This was an act of creation, and I don't want anyone to exploit it. That's the way I would.
Right. What I'd say, sometimes I get a little insecure about this section because, like, I mostly am just doing, like, interesting creative pop culture readings, right? Yeah. Like, I'm not doing serious literary criticism. It's just fun. We're having fun.
That's the whole point of this podcast, Anna. Right. Yes.
And then every once in a while, I'm like, oh, wait, I know exactly what this is. I know what's happening here. All right. Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Wait. Rattling silverware.
Oh, no, it's the alien ship.
Oh, wait. Chitter.
It's time for Discord notes.
Yep. Discord notes?
This is when we take a question from our patrons on the Discord, elevate it to the podcast, and answer them. This week's question comes from Nate Meyer, which is basically, why do we seem to get one of these silent films every 15 years or so, like The Artist or Mel Brooks' silent movie? Will the worsening quality of recorded dialogue, which is definitely a thing, make this more common? So I'm going to nitpick this, and I apologize, but I'm going to stress, this is not a silent film. This is a film without dialogue, but again, one of the things, and you said this before, but one of the things that I think is incredibly well done about this film is if no one told you in advance, it wouldn't be obvious that the first thing about this film is that there's no dialogue. And I think part of this is due to Caitlin Dever, in terms of the direction of her, which is she's not silent in the film. She makes a variety of noises. She's grunting, she's like straining and it's entirely all appropriate what she's doing. And I think I read somewhere that she actually did have to come in for ADR looping at various times to add some of those sounds.
Additional recorded grunting.
Exactly.
ADG.
Yes, there we go. ADG. And so this isn't quite like The Artist or a silent movie where it's just like the music playing as you're watching. And I would be uncomfortable categorizing it with those other films. But that said, I do take Nate's point about the worsening quality of recorded dialogue, maybe making this a more attractive, genre film of not a lot of words spoken.
And I am looking forward to when they just go ahead and like cop to the fact that everyone watches with subtitles now and make subtitles like more part of like the experience or something. And I did want to mention I forgot to mention this in the whole like I identify with Bren section of our podcast, which is I do sometimes go a long time without speaking.
I'm glad I'm here to force you every once in a while to actually have to speak on it.
Or what happens is I realize that I talk to my pets a lot.
Yeah. That was actually the only time I thought this was a little...
she should have a dog.
Right. She definitely needs a dog. The only time I thought this was mildly artificial is when you don't hear Bryn talking to herself, trying to talk through what she's actually experiencing. Like, maybe that's a movie thing where like you're more likely to do it in the movies.
Do you talk to yourself, Dan?
Yeah, occasionally I will talk to myself. Yeah. It's not a huge thing, but like there are moments where I will be talking to myself.
Well, there's like, where it would really make sense is a fuck or shit, like when something happens, like a fuck.
Exactly.
That's probably when most of us talk to ourselves, right?
Right.
Like, if we're in an instant of pain or disappointment.
Yeah. And she has a fair number of those in this film. So yeah, that was the only time where it felt a little forced. But on the whole, it's an organically I would say the silence is mostly organic and well done in that way. Oh, what's that? Oh, tractor beam.
Door getting destroyed. It's the debris field.
Yep.
This is where we talk about the stuff we haven't already gotten a chance to talk about. I got that out. Dan, what do you have?
This is going to be obvious, but it's worth just mentioning. Caitlin Dever, Take a Bow. I think I read somewhere that the director basically said that the film's primary special effect is, in fact, Caitlin Dever and her reaction. And I'm almost worried about saying this, but like as an actress, she was so good in Booksmart, and she's been so good in like, teen roles. She's a very petite person, and I was kind of worried that like as she gets older, like will she actually be able to find other roles? And like I'm glad to see in some ways that she's doing this kind of genre stuff, because she can probably play in this sandbox for quite some time. She's an extremely good actress, so she makes the film very enjoyable.
So another thing, unfortunate kind of like place where this resonated is I was thinking about how I have had some like scary moments as a woman living alone. The scariest ever was someone knocked at my door really, really early in the morning.
Oh God.
And I was just really grateful that I have a very unsocialized dog. It turned out it was a drunk person, like wrong
I see.
address, but still it was frightening. And then there are also been times when
I'm also glad that you have at least 4 guns and a crossbow.
There's also been times, when the pets are actually, lend to the spookiness, which is every once in a while. Dogs or cats will be like, look at something and what the hell? Like, what are they looking at? What is that they see that I don't see? What are they hearing that I don't hear? So I've been creeped out before. And it occurred to me when she goes down to investigate and she can sort of starts to clearly, it's a little bit unclear if it's an alien or human. In some ways, it'd be easier to deal with and less scary if it's an alien than if it's a human. Like, if a human invades my home, I know something bad is going to happen. There is no reason for a human to invade that ends with me bicycling around the city center, right? And I thought that might be something that the movie would get into, which is, this is the classic zombie thing, right? The humans are scary. I guess it does kind of go into that. Humans are scarier than aliens. Yeah,
no, definitely. I mean, it leans into that zombie trope. That would be,
but not in this particular way.
Right. So. Yeah. I'm just going to say it. Bad tween girls are bad.
I actually don't. Oh, no. I actually think that argument was just an argument that tween girls have. And that
I know. But tween girls scare the shit out of me as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
That's what I mean. I just don't think.
I just didn't think it was. Well, I guess what I would say, tween girls in general scare the shit out of you, and they should. It's not that they're bad teen girls.
Right,
it's that tween girls are bad.
Tween girls are bad. That's all I'm saying. Yeah. Like clearly grown-up Bryn obviously feels remorse and in a variety and is grieving in a variety of ways.
Bryn.
Yeah. But like 12-year-old girls. God, sorry. Go ahead. What do you have?
Okay, a couple things. Lee's plausible aspect of the movie. There's a healthy fiddle leaf fig in her bedroom, and I do not believe those things can be kept alive by a human. So,
okay.
Right.
Okay. Not a huge thing, but like in terms of creepiness, like I talked about how there were no cell phones. The one thing that creeped me out is when she sees the neighbors and they're all holding up their hands. Yes. And it looked briefly like what they're doing is taking pictures of the storm with a camera, and then you realize it's just holding up their hands.
Oh, like I didn't see that, but yes, okay.
Sure. Yeah, but like it was just an interesting effect that was pretty eerie.
I I have weird like set decoration kind of notes. Like there's a fiddle leaf.
Her house is fascinating. Yeah,
it's fascinating. Tough to clean. Lots of knickknacks. Lots of breakable knickknacks.
I collect knickknacks. I'm not gonna. I identified with that. Yeah.
Another difference between you and me.
Ooh.
Also, although I did generally thought it was a pretty cool house. Two fireplaces. Apparently, that's cool. And this is. I'll just keep this in the same section. It's a set design thing or set decoration thing. I think the curling iron that she pulls out as a weapon. Yeah. Not a bad choice. I would heat it up first.
Ooh, that's good.
Get an extension cord if possible. I'd make it hot. Yeah. That would make it a truly good weapon.
My last thing is there are a lot of shots from this movie that are legitimately interesting and creepy. I will say, like the opening shot, I actually kind of almost laughed because it reminded me of the very end. Have you seen The Fabelmans, Anna?
No.
Oh, first of all, go see The Fabelmans. There's a very hysterically funny closing scene in which the protagonist meets the director, John Ford. And John Ford gives this speech about how if you're shooting something, don't have the horizon in the middle. That's boring. If you have the horizon at the top, that's interesting, or the horizon at the bottom, that's interesting. And this movie opens with a shot of the horizon at the top. So like that was just, I found somewhat diverting. But also there is an amazing shot of the roof of the house where it looks like a face. And I have to assume that was conscious. And I was like, I hadn't seen that before. That was a cool shot. So like, just little touches like that.
Speaking of cool shots, there is a point which there's actually, I think this happens a couple times, where she is in the frame and not yet in focus. Mm-hmm. And so her face is slightly distorted and she looks like a gray.
This also reminds me, one last thing I will say, which is, and I'm giving the director credit. I was legitimately surprised. I could never be entirely certain what was going to happen. There were a number of shots where you see Bryn pretty close up and you're half expecting her to move and to see an alien right behind her. Or I was surprised there was never a surprise shot like that where it's a classic horror trope.
There's not a lot of jump scares. They're all creepy scares.
Yes, exactly. There was
I'm not sure if there is a jump scare.
I don't think there is. I mean, the jump scares are...
I think jump scares are cheap.
Yeah. But they could have. You could also do it in a creepy way, where you just see the alien. Not that it strikes, but just
there is one of those actually. There's one of those.
There is
where the alien starts creeping up behind her.
Oh yeah, no, that was that's true.
And it
wasn't. But it's not when you see her and then you see the alien. All I'm saying is the movie filled me with the appropriate level of dread. That every time I saw a close up shot of Bryn, I kept worrying that something else was going to be behind her.
I did call almost every little plot beat here, story beat here. There is one that I predicted and did not happen.
Oh, yes.
Which was the classic pod person appeal, which is, don't you want us to like you? A scene of kind of join us.
Right.
Because then
you'll feel no pain and you'll be,
You'll be one of us. You'll be accepted. So... That is, and you could argue that the ending is actually the inversion of that,
or that it's unspoken. But
she doesn't. But it's gifted to her. She doesn't make the choice. It's gifted to her.
That's true. That's fair.
Yeah. Last thing, and this is super random to have it be the last thing. Oh no, I have two things. You don't have anything else because I have two last.
Nope,
things.
I'm done.
Okay. In my continuing, would I do that? What would I do? Analysis of the film. When she looks under the blanket at the dead alien, because it's all stinky and has slime trails and stuff. Right. I was like, good on you. That's one I'm not sure I could do.
This was another thing where I was...
Slime trails leading out from under a blanket? I don't know.
This was one where I was half expecting that alien to either have been moved or to... have resuscitated or whatever. And again, I'm glad that they didn't do that, but it's the concern that that's what was going to be the case. So, it worked well.
The set decor thing, but have to say, that's an awful lot of pans she has.
Well, she's gotten into cooking, Anna. I mean, I get that. That's all I'm saying.
Okay. All right. And also they're all the same size. She has she has a lot of saucepans specifically. And okay, last thing now. Yeah. The aliens use some kind of semaphore sign language that
That was weird.
That was when they looked their least creepy.
Yes. No. That was very strange. And again,
they look like they're dancing.
It raises the question of exactly what the alien plan was. So yeah, I don't deny that. Like, very odd. Yeah.
All right, I think we've covered. This is like I told you, surprisingly a lot to talk about for this not very complicated, very short movie.
Yep. Yep. I guess that's about it. Just a reminder, you can reach us on social media. We are both on Blue Sky. I am at Dan Dresner. She is at Anna Marie Cox. We're doing some other things. Anna has a website. I believe it's pronounced www.annamariecox.com.
Spelled the same way, pronounced differently. I am starting a NaNoWriMo morning writing group that, you could sign up for up through all of November if you like. It's $60. We meet at 6:30 a.m. Central Time. There are writing prompts and, just the collective support. I had about 30 people join me last year.
Oh, that's great.
No one actually wrote their novel during it, but a lot of people got work done. Oh, and so it's 6:30, 8:30. You don't have to come at 6:30. You can join anytime. And then there's like weekly, like virtual happy hours to talk about your work and whatnot. That's
lovely.
Yeah, it's real fun. If you're working on a book, Dan, you're welcome to join us.
I might have to consider this. I'm also on Substack. I've got a Substack called Dresner's World. Trying to defy
vital reading in this time.
Yes,
vital reading for the world we live in today.
I do also have a piece out. It'll been out for about a week in Politico that basically asks whether the United States is going to become the next Israel for a variety of reasons.
And when I say vital reading, I was being somewhat jocular, if not sarcastic. These are sober times, and that is a very good piece, Dan. So
thank you. I appreciate that.
Next we're doing it's shining bright. It's nice shining.
It's the Shinin, Anna. Yes.
Shinin. All right. Awesome. Looking forward to it. And until then,
keep this channel open.